This is Bleav in Buckeyes. I'm Brian Browning with All-American cornerback Chimdi Chekwa. We got a very special guest for you guys today to kind of fuel that fire that we're brewing here at Buckeye Nation around the time we kick off our games come this up-and-coming season. Well, the last few seasons, I don't know, this season, past season, all seasons, but we have Ryan Glasspiegel here of Front Office Sports. He's been writing. He's been looking into these things. First off, though, Ryan, how are you doing? How's the weather in the Chi-Town?
It's actually nice. I mean, it's been a dismal May, but this morning was, 70 and sunny. So now all of a sudden, life is worth living again.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like summer or spring is really an extension of winter right now in the Midwest with a bunch of rain and random weather. With some sprinkles of sunshine in between where you get excited for a couple days. So it's weird times.
Yeah, weird time. But look, man, let's start talking about the weather. You guys are focused on the wrong things. Let's get into it. It's official now that Big Noon has stole season 1 from us Ohio State Buckeye fans and Texas and college football in general. Instead of they're kicking that game off at 12 noon. Ryan, I guess first, let me grab your thoughts on that. Are you as upset as Buckeye Nation is? I know you're a Badger guy, you're a Wisconsin guy, but we're fuming down here, man.
All right, so there's like a lot of factors here. First of all, I like Big Noon because it makes it so that the biggest games don't compete against like the top other conference games in other windows at like 3:30 at night, and you get everybody who's watching college football, unless they're watching their own team, is going to be watching this game, and it's going to be getting a big audience. But Ohio State went to Fox and said, hey, we don't want to play this at noon. Can we play it at night? Can you work with us? And Fox, one of their executives, Michael Mulvihill, confirmed to me on the record, yeah, Ohio State went to them and said, can you move it tonight? And Fox said, okay, we'll move it from Saturday at noon to Sunday night. This is Labor Day weekend. There's no NFL yet, so it would be Sunday night. And Fox is like, we actually think we're going to get a little bit less viewers Sunday night than we would at Saturday at noon because Notre Dame is playing Miami in that window on Sunday night on ABC. But they made some type of trade that both sides are okay with. I don't know the details. And Fox was going to allow Ohio State to move that game to Sunday night. But then Texas was like, no. Texas and Ohio State, as you guys know, they have a home and home. And part of that contract is that they can have like veto power over changing the date. Texas exercised that veto power. I think it was a couple factors. Number one, they have a game the following Saturday. I don't think they wanted to play it on a short week, even though it's a game. I think it's like against San Jose State or so. It's someone they're going to beat by 8 touchdowns, but you don't want short rest. And then the other thing is I think there's probably, and you guys could probably speak to this better than me, there's a sense that there's a home field advantage that's bigger at night when fans have had a chance to, have a couple adult beverages leading into the game. They might be louder, have less inhibitions, and it just creates an aura under the lights that's harder for a visiting team to compete in. So between like those two factors, Texas didn't want to move the game to Sunday night. They said no, so it's at noon.
Yeah, and I would agree with, first and foremost, just changing the routine and schedule by moving the game from Saturday to Sunday. I wouldn't be for that if I could avoid it, right? I mean, that's you get into a groove, Wednesday practice, Thursday, Friday type walkthrough, play on Saturday, and then get back into recovery. From Texas, I'm not going to shift what's already set after the fact. Also don't want to give them the nighttime advantage. The other thing to me from this story, which, it feels like Fox is trying to provide themselves some cover, right? Like there's been a fan uproar about Big Noon, and now, let's communicate to everybody that, we were on board with moving this game tonight, but on Sunday night versus Saturday night. I understand, they're trying to maximize ratings, but at the same time, obviously Texas was going to have some say or likely some hesitation of moving the game a whole nother day to the next day at a nighttime. So I don't know. That story just seems a little bit convenient for Fox and them trying to provide cover. We personally feel, I think I could speak for at least, part of Buckeye Nation from a fan standpoint. We feel like there's some opportunity on Saturday at the 3:30 slot or at the nighttime slot. I know that you're competing for eyes,
Well, they
but
can't. Fox can't do that though. They can't put the game at 3:30 or prime time on Saturday because CBS and NBC have those Big Ten windows. So if Fox is going to have the game, it has to be either at noon on Saturday or they could have moved it to Sunday night. I mean, I guess they could have made some type of trade with CBS or NBC, but it would be very logistically challenging for them to do that. Sorry to interrupt.
See, right? See, you keep coming with all these facts and contracts. I don't want to hear about none of that stuff. Like, I want to talk about you guys. Like, you talking about competing eyes and things like that. We got the biggest game week 1. I don't know who else supposed to be playing week 1, but it's gonna be tough to convince me that there's a game bigger than Ohio State, Texas week 1 of the season. Just do it. Just make the game prime time. You would get the viewers. You would get a much better atmosphere just because, it's tough to say a game. It's electric in the stadium at 12 noon. You can say it's electric in the stadium when it's nighttime and the night lights are on and all that stuff is going on. Ryan, I know you got the facts, but we're talking about emotions here.
So there's another element of this too. There's first of all, there's the way that like these games get divvied up, which I'll get into. Put a pin in that. But so Ohio State and Michigan, I've reported this in the past, they have it written into their TV deals that they can refuse to play games at night after daylight savings time. So I know that's only like 3 or 4 weeks, the November games, but when they have that written in, it makes it so that it like dissuades NBC from trying to select those games for later in the year. And I wrote a piece last year saying that like Ohio State fans who are mad about not having night games, they shouldn't be mad at Fox, who's going to do what's in their own best interest. They should be mad at Ohio State for putting this in the deal and making it so NBC is more reluctant to select those games and have them at night under the lights. And I think that this is something of like it's from like the past regime more than it is this one. I think that Bjork has been more willing to have these night games than Gene Smith was, as evidenced by the fact that he wanted this Texas game at night. But they're the young fans, like 45 and under, who want to party and tailgate and have a whole day of it. They definitely prefer these night games. But the older donor class, they want to have the game at noon and drive home while it's light out and, be under the covers at 8 p.m. Like, I don't know how many old people but they don't like, they like that these games end at like 11:30 Eastern, and then you have to get to where you're sleeping. Like, getting out of stadiums anywhere in America is a nightmare. Like, maybe they have drivers, maybe they're staying in a hotel in Columbus that us peasants can't afford, but they don't like going to bed after midnight. And so go ahead.
I agree that that's a factor, but as you mentioned, it's really for those late season games. You got to think the weather element also plays a factor, right? It's not just
cold too.
Yeah, it's cold outside, right? I remember playing Penn State at night, or maybe even a 3:30 game, but it's we're out there at night and it's freezing outside. That plays a factor. But we're talking about the first game of the season. Right?
Okay, but
we all know that this is going to be the first game of the season, playoff rematch, right? This is an opportunity to really get in one of those late night, prime time, big time matchup games, knowing that later in the season when you play Michigan, we don't want to play a night game. Like, it's been custom, it's custom for Ohio State, Michigan to be at the noon slot. But early in the season, out of conference, SEC Big Ten matchup, biggest game of the year, that is the opportunity to maximize it. And what the challenge is, Ohio State fans are going to be mad at Ohio State, but the blame is quickly going to be shifted towards Fox because we can see evidence by the AD really trying to shift it to a night game, looking at Sunday as an opportunity. We recognize that pressure or that attempt is coming from Ohio State, and Fox still has a lot of control as to where this thing ends up. Fox, NBC, CBS, have a lot of control where this ends up. And then to top it off, the night game that Ohio State is going to play early in the season is versus OU on Peacock, right? So yeah, it's tough. I think those early season night game opportunities are ones that even our oldest alumni donors can for sure get behind.
Yeah. So now I'll go into like how this scheduling like works with like how they divvy up each game. So the Big Ten deal is Fox, CBS, and NBC. And they have like a draft, kind of like the NFL draft, kind of like a fantasy draft where they like pick the games. And what they're actually picking though is they're picking like the date where like, okay, we'll select our game this day. But like some of them, what they're picking. Like, so like for Michigan, Ohio State, yeah, they're picking the last week of the season for the right to pick the first game that day, but everyone knows they're picking Michigan, Ohio State. So in this draft, Fox gets the first 3 picks. And so obviously Michigan, Ohio State was one of them. And obviously Texas versus Ohio State was one of them. I don't know what their third pick was, but they're going like their window is at 11. They're going to do what's best for them. I understand being like mad at the situation, but Fox is going to do what's best for Fox, and they're going to pick the game where they can get the most eyeballs, sell the most commercials, have the most attention on, and then that game is going to go in their noon window. And they've been that this has been a strategy of theirs for 6 years. I understand that Ohio State fans feel like they've gotten the brunt of this, and you have for the last 2 or 3 years because you're the best team in the conference. You're the defending national champions. I know Michigan won a title, but right now they've fallen off, and Ohio State is certainly ahead of them, even though I think Michigan won last year. But
come on, Ryan.
we won't go into those details. But,
That's not.
I don't know. I've gone in circles, but you can be mad at Fox, but Fox is going to do what's best for Fox.
Yeah, they're going to do what's best for Fox, and this is where we come in, right? Let's start putting pressure on Fox so that what's best for them is also accommodating what fans want. The reality is, they're trying to maximize ratings,
yes.
Right? So however it shapes out, they're going to do what's best for them. In the meantime, it's what it's leading to is not what's necessarily best for the entire game experience and the fans, right? And at the end of the day, where are the ratings coming from? Coming from the fans, right? They're coming from fans. They're coming from college football fans in total.
But here's the thing: like this annoys you, but you're not going to not watch.
But we are going to protest, Ryan. We've been working on this.
But I'm like, oh no, Fox! Man, I can't believe the Bleav in Buckeyes podcast is yelling at us.
They gotta feel that pressure, so they can do better in the future. It's like a chicken for the egg type deal.
Yeah, I look, believe me, I get all sides of this. Although I went to Wisconsin, Alabama at noon last year. It's nice, get blown out. You got the rest of the day. It's to do whatever you want. You don't have to be waiting for the football game. I don't know. I see all sides of this.
Yeah, so noon games aren't a problem. Like as a player, I like noon games. We're playing Ohio University. Let's play at noon. Family coming into town, we get the game played afterwards. Me and my family lived in Florida. We go out and we eat. Then we can hang out. I could hang out with my friends so I can go back and watch the film of the game. You get more rest going into the next week and everything. But there's key games throughout the season. There's a few of them. Texas, Ohio State.
It's one of them.
Has to be one of them, right? And those are the games where me as a player, I want the prime time. I want to be sitting in the hotel, getting prepared, getting a little extra sleep that day, and getting prepared for this big time matchup. And then the rest of the games, noon game, let's get these games over with. Go out here and play, get these games over it, and get ready for the next week. But there's a few games throughout the season that are playoff level type environments, and I want to maximize it, especially if it's a home game, right? Especially if it's a home game. On the road, I don't know if I want to give the home team that much of an advantage, although I did love playing in the White Oak at Penn State. That was one of my favorite places to play. I also enjoyed playing at Wisconsin, although my senior year didn't go so well. Right?
And Ryan was there. He was there cheering. Yeah. But,
I'll say I'm confident that the game that Texas hosts Ohio State, that hasn't happened yet, right?
Yeah.
That's in the future?
That's in the future, yep.
Well, that game won't be at noon.
No, that game would be at 7 o'clock on probably ESPN.
Might be at 3:30, but probably it'll be at 7 o'clock.
It's 7, 8 o'clock window for sure. But those are gripes there. I mean, Ron, we appreciate you bringing on the facts and some information, but we want to kind of get your opinion about some other things that are going on here in college football. I think the biggest window is really the SEC conference. They're having their meetings, and out of that, there's more momentum behind essentially the 5+11 college football, expanding the college playoffs to 16 teams, the 5 top conferences get a spot, then essentially 11 at bids from there. Want to grab your thoughts on that. I know you're a college football guy. Does that help out? Potentially, your team, Wisconsin, could get in, better opportunity to get into that mix, right?
Not anytime soon, as far as I can tell. I'm pretty demoralized about the state of the program right now. You guys didn't have to.
You didn't like the FICO extension?
National champions. I mean, I like it because look, these games are not going to be a great TV product for the most part. Like 1 versus 16 in college football, I think way more often than not is going to be a massive blowout. But I like the idea of having an extra week of games on campus. It gets everyone together one last time. I think it helps the local economy considerably. I mean, you think about 80,000 extra people coming into Madison or Columbus or Baton Rouge, Gainesville, on and on and on. And what that does for, the bars, restaurants, hotels, grocery stores, parking lots, etc. It makes a big difference. The problem is, though, there's just such a big gap between like the 2 or 3 best teams in college football and everyone else. And we've seen this after they expanded the playoffs from 4. There really haven't been any oh my God, I can't believe that upset happened games in these expanded playoffs. So maybe as it gets democratized a little more, there could be, but I haven't seen any evidence that these 13 through 16 teams have any chance at winning any of these games.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't like expansion, one, for the fact that it's just more football, more games being played with semi-amateur athletes right now. I guess they're moving to more professional now that they're getting paid. But you keep extending the season longer and longer. And I think that likely impacts the players. So spring football window gets kind of stomped on the longer you play in the playoffs. And then the other thing is, I don't like so much change so fast, right? We're dealing with consistent rule changes, transfer portal, NIL, expanded playoffs, increased expansion in the playoffs. To me, so hindsight is 2020. And I feel like we're not given enough time for us to look back and say, okay, how can we actually make a real progressive change for the sport? It's almost like a knee-jerk reaction to every year and saying, well, Alabama should have got in and they didn't. Let's expand the playoffs even more to basically get a couple more bad SEC teams in here so that we can have a few more blowouts. And then also,
I like the Brett Bielema tweet about how like the SEC is not like performed up to like what they claim since like everybody could play players, but it was a nice little jab from Brett, who I actually miss. I was happy to see him go from Wisconsin, and now I'm like, oh my god, I want him back. I have a question for you. I know I'm the guest, but if you guys had played in this era, and it's only 15 years later than when you played, it's a difference of what, like $2 or $3 million over 4 years for each of you.
I'm an offensive lineman, so I wasn't gonna make. I wasn't gonna get up there to that.
You don't think you would have been making like 400 or 500 grand a year?
I don't know, because the numbers get a little fickle on exactly what guys are getting. But I mean, obviously it does matter, right? You start looking at
It's
once
at
you
least
kind of
over
finish.
$1 million, right? Like
Yeah,
that's
you
a
at
lot of
least
money.
It's
yeah
over
how
$1
you
million,
could
maybe a couple million. I just remember
That
walking,
that
seeing.
that doesn't just like drive you insane to think about. Like
I think because the gap is 15 years, right? I think about the guys who maybe it's like a 6-7 year gap, right? Where I just missed the cut in terms of being able to get paid. I think 15 years in this kind of developing for a long time as to this being a possibility. It is kind of one of those things. And man, I wish we had NIL back then, especially because our senior year, Tattoo Gate really came out with guys basically doing NIL before NIL, and that led to losing the coach.
that was just so minor compared to this.
So
Yeah.
it's so minor.
It's like
right?
it's like a difference between literally like $150 and 150 grand. Like
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I mean, obviously that compensation would have been great. When you got to start off life, right? A little bit something more there, the better it'd have
you
been. But
probably
I'm
would have
saying,
spent a lot of it at the time.
maybe,
I would have.
yeah,
I would have.
yeah.
If that money was coming to me when I was 18 to 22, I don't think much of it would have ended up in the S&P. But
I would say this: when I was in college, I drove a '95 Ford Taurus, right? And I graduated college in 2010. I probably would have had a better car. I can say that.
Exactly.
I can say that for sure.
there's something to be said for old cars. They don't like beep at you.
Right. They
Yeah,
don't
that
force you
was
to
nice.
like when you switch lanes without using your turning signal. They don't force you back into the lane. But
those safety features.
But yeah, you mentioned the Brett Bielema tweet, and I want to get your thoughts. I don't know how much you've been following the Greg Sankey SEC movement that's been happening right now during, I guess, SEC Media Day and stuff. But they came with this like pamphlet of metrics, SEC metrics showing why the SEC should basically get more teams in the playoffs, or why they should reconsider how they do the playoff selection. And they show like strength of schedule and history of wins and history of. I'm interested in your thoughts on that because to me it looks like I don't know if you ever seen like a nonprofit sponsorship packet, but they're trying to get donations. And they say like, look, if you donate, this is what you're getting. What's your thoughts on this SEC movement?
When someone goes on CNBC and they talk about like a stock they like, it's like they're talking their book. They're trying to pump up their own interests. Everyone knows that. Like he's advocating for himself, but the Big Ten is in on this with the SEC. The Big Ten and the SEC want the same thing. They want more of their own teams in, and they're threatening the Big 12 and the ACC and the NCAA. Like, hey, that's a pretty playoff package we have. Well, how would you feel if you just got totally cut out of it? Because the SEC and Big Ten really could cut the ACC and Big 12 out of the package entirely, and then just take like the 3 or 4 schools that they have that anybody cares about. Like they don't need like, you know, Boston College in this package. Like they don't need Syracuse in this package. Maybe they need the other conferences in the NCAA for other sports, but they don't need them for football. And like, yeah, I get it, Notre Dame and Clemson, but they could just pluck Clemson and put them in the SEC. Like there's that they really could just stage all of this on their own. And so I'd be careful about how much I protest if I'm the ACC or Big 12, and just kind of be a little bit happy that I'm along for the ride.
That's
Points there.
Yeah, that's
Good
that's
point.
wild. I think the strength really comes with the ratings or the eyes, right? The Big Ten and the SEC get a lot of eyes on their product. So at the end of the day, they're generating a lot of the attention. But
You know
I
what's
think
funny
with
to think about? Like if the Big Ten and SEC did decide to cut out, do they ever turn on some of their own and like you'll be like, okay, we don't need Purdue anymore. We don't need Northwestern anymore. I mean, they probably would keep Northwestern because it's a
Yeah.
big TV market, but like, you know, the Purdue
Yeah.
or Rutgers, or I guess Rutgers also a big TV market, but
No, but I mean, the point
it'd
is the
be
point.
interesting to see
Yeah.
like why does Ohio State and Michigan, and then like a lesser extent like Penn State, Iowa, and Wisconsin, why do they get the same share of revenue as like these bottom tier schools in the conference? Like I don't know. I think we're gonna start seeing not just the Big Ten and SEC throw their weight around, but the bigger schools within these conferences being like, why are we all equal partners? What sense does that make?
Yeah, I don't know what you think. I feel like the Big Ten is more balanced in terms of you have the teams that drive football in terms of talent and wins, etc., and the fans. But you mentioned like a Purdue or Indiana was good last year, but in Indiana, some of those teams have really big alumni bases, right? So at a minimum, maybe not in a big market, but you at least got people traveling to games, tuning into games, right? Some of these SEC
Yeah,
teams,
they got, you know, a million living alumni.
yeah. So some of these SEC teams, don't necessarily match from just an alumni base or from a market standpoint. Like the Big Ten has kind of this combination of market and just alumni population.
Yeah. But I don't know how many people go to Mississippi State, but like they're not like bringing the eyeballs that, Purdue could with whatever. So it's going to be interesting. Like I do think we're going to start seeing at some point the big boys in the conferences be greedy for themselves. Like there probably are like 10 to 15 real blue blood programs, and they're kind of getting the same revenue as teams that are clearly a tier or two below them.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like you say, right, I think that could be, as we kind of start to lose conferences, right? They keep getting bigger and bigger. I feel like the bigger they get, essentially, the more you're losing them, in my opinion, right? You're no longer, so much friendly with your neighbor, let's put it like that, due to how things are going. I think that's definitely something we could, should keep our own, how things shake out with the big schools and big bloods and how things handle the future. But for right now, we're going to continue to put our energy at being mad at Fox for making us play Texas at noon. And Ryan,
you can be mad at Fox, and you're going to deliver your eyeballs to them. They'll take that trade.
Yeah,
we're
right.
not showing up at Big Noon pregame.
We love
pregame.
Right, we love Herb, but we're not showing up. Well, Ryan, we appreciate your time and joining us once again. You always can check out Ryan on what is it? Front Office Sports. Yeah, please feel free to follow him and always follow and tune in to us here at Bleav in Buckeyes as we bring you guys like Ryan who has actual facts and not just emotions when he's speaking about some of these topics. We really appreciate it. We're gonna end our show as always with a nice OH.
All right, yo, come on, join
Go Bucks. Come on, Ryan. Come on.
Never.
You want to play jump around?
Maybe if you play Michigan, I hate Michigan more, but I don't think I can ever do the OHIO.
Oh man! All right. We appreciate the time, Ryan. We'll talk to you soon.